Welcome. This is the 85th episode of Women on Wealth. I'm Jelena Ogilvy. And today I'm excited to dive into a topic that I know we can all relate to, which is feeling stuck, feeling overwhelmed when it comes to achieving both personal and financial goals. So, our guest today to have this conversation is Monica Leggett, who is a business coach, a speaker, and the author of the recently published, I have it, Monica, Doubtful to Decisive 8 Steps to Get Unstuck and Take Action. Monica, by the way, is known for helping people break through mental barriers, shift their mindset, and take actionable steps towards the life they truly want, whether it's in their careers, whether it's in their relationships, and maybe even when it comes to their finances, which we're going to talk about that correlation today. So, Monica, welcome. I'm thrilled to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is a
And
fun topic.
congratulations on the book. You and I were working alongside each other for the last couple of years to publish our little babies.
Yes, our babies are out of the nest now. They're out into the world. Yep. And thanks for giving me a chance to talk about it.
No, I think again, this is a relatable topic, and I also think it's extremely important when it comes to finances, which we're going to go through. So
Mhm.
let me start first with the title of your book, because in it you use the phrase "get unstuck,"
Mhm.
which I love. So why, let's start there. Why do people feel stuck when it comes to certain aspects of their lives, whether it's personal or business?
Yeah, I like to think of it as one way. People are stuck when they have a thought going in one direction and a thought in another, sort of polarized thoughts. I want to, but, I want to, but I'm afraid. I want to, but I don't know how. I want to. And so they stay in this stuck place until they like pause and think about it, maybe talk to someone
Yeah.
and get really clear, like, what exactly do you want? And what are those thoughts, those limiting beliefs, those some of it might be real, but a lot of it tends to not be real. Like, why can't I do it right now? So that's you're just stuck in the middle of a bunch of thoughts.
So the mental tug of war is not just in my own mind.
Right. It's
Good to
not
know.
just you, it's everybody. And to be honest with you, this book is me. I get doubtful. And at some point I pull up my bootstraps and get decisive about what I want. And, I'm a master procrastinator, hesitation, whatever you want to call it. So getting unstuck and taking action is really important. The thoughts behind it are really important.
Yeah. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
moving past this procrastination phase.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not always just procrastination. Sometimes it's really hesitation. There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
I have a silly story in my book about not crocheting a blanket for my daughter. It was her wedding gift. I got started on it, and all of a sudden it's just sitting there and I'm not working on it. And I finally said, okay, coach thyself, why are you not working on this?
Yeah.
And it was just, I really didn't like the pattern. I didn't like the yarn, and I didn't want to do that Afghan. So I talked to my daughter and I, came up with a different pattern and yarn, and I loved it and I worked on it. So sometimes
Good.
there's a reason why you're hesitating.
Yep.
Maybe you need more information. Maybe you need to have a new discussion with somebody about it. Maybe there's something instinct that's telling you, no, don't go in that direction. You got to kind of be curious about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in your career, how have you seen sort of this concept of getting unstuck apply to people's finances?
Well, one thing is, can I retire? For sure. A lot of people financially, they can retire. Their advisors say you can retire. When are you going to retire? And they're like, yeah, but I don't know what comes after that. I don't want to be a couch potato or whatever.
Right.
Another place is, I've worked with some younger people through a nonprofit, and I'm like a budget coach.
Okay.
And they're stuck like, I'll never be able to move out. I'll never be able to own a home. I'll never be able to fill in the blank. And they actually have never set a financial goal. Like, someday I'll have enough money. But if you're stuck, it means you really maybe you just haven't looked at it enough, and maybe with some advice and help from other people. But in my coaching, we looked at first thing, you kind of set a budget, like what are your expected expenses?
Yes.
And but then where's all the money disappearing on your debit card? And you didn't even realize it, right? My husband worked in Manhattan for 27 years. And if he had bought lunch every day for all of those years, a fortune, right? And breakfast too, because he'd go in really early. Eventually, he had his own bowl and spoon. He'd bring his own cereal because he's very particular about what he liked to eat in the morning.
Yeah.
We would make sandwiches like back in the good old days. I was one of 10 kids. We'd make our own sandwiches and then we'd bring them to. So he would bring his own lunch.
Yes.
And I think he started a trend with people at work. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That looks good. I don't want that duff of bread and barely any meat and some chips and a soda. I want
And,
my own lunch.
and I feel like the younger generation now, it's the Starbucks mentality,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
right?
Oh, what's $3 or $4? Well, $5 or $6. What is if you do that every day? Think of the money you would
Exactly.
save,
Yeah.
you know.
And I don't know, Monica, in your experience, so the thing I love about a budget is that it creates a forced savings as part of the plan.
Yeah.
Means that it forces you to not think so linear about the next goal. You have to be multifaceted in your goals. It's not just, yes, I'm going to save for for my child's college education, but I also have to save for my retirement at the same time.
Right.
That,
Right.
have you seen that in your experience that people that are stuck think very linear?
Yeah, or they get stuck on one thing and they're not
Yes.
looking at the bigger picture. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know you're going to talk about sort of the bigger picture as part of your process later on, but
Mhm.
I wanted to at least address that early on because I think this is a big problem and one of the reasons that people get really stuck from a financial standpoint.
Yeah. If all I did in my 30s was worry about owning a home and not saving any money long term for my 401k, or like
Yes.
finally it's like I'm in my 50s and I'm just starting a 401k, like you shortchanged yourself, or
Yes.
the college fund for the kids and whatever else. If you don't have that awareness and you haven't really thought about, well, what are the goals for those different areas of your life?
Exactly. Yeah.
You just
And
kind of swimming in a sea with no, you're in a boat with no oars or motorboat with no motor, whatever. You just kind of
whatever
float
the
along.
analogy.
Whatever the analogy,
Yeah.
exactly.
So for the individuals that are stuck in some aspect or other,
Hmm.
what is one small actionable step that people can take today to kind of start that process of getting unstuck? Where do you typically suggest people start?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have to think about, well, what is the topic? What am I stuck about? And
Yep.
what is really there? What do I want? Um, and I think when I'm coaching somebody, they'll start a session with they want to talk about this. And often there's a lot of negative emotion in there. This negative thinking. This is going to be too hard, or I don't know where to start, or I'm just overwhelmed. I've got 15 things to do today and I only have an hour.
Yeah.
So one thing you can do is number one, pause, breathe, remind yourself, the sky is not falling. Let's just figure this out. And if you have taken the time, create a plan. What is the next thing on my list? What is the next important thing to do, or what is the next step that I can take today?
Okay.
And I think the more we take the time to really evaluate where we are and plan a little bit is really helpful
Yeah.
for sure.
So I think your point is really starting with the very big picture
Yeah.
and having a clear definition of what it is you're really trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I call it, the desired outcome.
Yeah.
So, if we're talking about health, don't just say, oh, well, I want to lose 10 pounds. Well, what's the bigger? I want to be healthy. Maybe you have grandkids and you want to be able to play on the floor with them and or
Yes.
take a walk or go to Disney with them and not be freaking exhausted.
Yeah.
Right? I have 8 grandkids, so I know there's it takes energy to do the things to stay part of the family and stay active. So you want to look at all of it. Well, it's not just eating less, exercising more, seeing the doctor. There's all these little sub goals within the bigger goal.
Exactly. But the
You
bigger
know.
goal, and I love that you call it desired outcome.
Hmm.
I meant to tell you that is how we define our goals with our clients,
Oh,
is
nice.
helping them achieve their desired outcome.
Right.
And most often that desired outcome for our clients is not a monetary value, right?
Right.
It,
Right.
it
There's some feeling and emotion behind it.
exactly. So our
Yeah.
goal is to help them make those actionable steps to that desired outcome.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. And can you share a success story of a client maybe that was stuck and kind of walk through how their process worked?
Yeah. So not every client is stuck. Some just have a goal and they need to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
But one particular person, she kind of represents where a number of clients, she came in with a particular goal. She was unhappy with her job.
Yep.
And
Common.
yeah, yeah. And I am not a career
Not
coach.
me, sorry, but common.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, it is common. And I've told people over and over again, I am not a career coach, but if you're not happy with your job, what's going on there? Who are you being at work? How are you reacting to what's happening at work? And so there was there were some coaching sessions on who she wanted to be at work. I just kind of stood up a little taller. What was her leadership role? What was her interaction with her uplines? And ultimately she really wanted a different job.
Yeah.
But over time, we are not just our job. We are, a mother of a kid heading off to college, right? And then you've got the stress of that whole winter is disastrous, right?
Yeah.
The essay and the, you know,
Yeah.
forms to fill out and colleges to look at. And her mom, had some health issues and was going to need treatment like regularly, and she lives with her. So she's a sandwich
Yeah.
generation, very little self-care, not enough time, downtime, no boundaries, like, working into the night, taking calls whenever, traveling a lot for her job, but not having any boundaries about, well, I've just spent my entire weekend for work. I'm taking Wednesday afternoon off, like finding some sort of balance and boundaries.
Yeah.
And really, it was not, I talked to some other coaches about this. Coaching isn't just transactional, like I will get a new job and done, got a new job. It's more transformational, like who she was being. So I actually talked to her a couple of weeks ago and asked if I could mention her, anonymously about this transformation. And she came in very judgmental of herself, a lot of imposter syndrome and other things, and judging the people she worked with.
Yeah.
Why are they listening? And through coaching, she's, if her judge was a 10, now it's a 5. She's managing differently. She's asking them to be involved and not try to do it all herself. So it's really transformational. Like, how do you want to be? We're not
Exactly.
just human doings, we're human beings. And if you can sink into how do you want to be a little bit different, she's approaching things differently. She's more resilient. She's has some coping mechanisms for those stressful days and all of that.
Well, and it just sounds
Hmm.
like for so many of us, the larger issue is usually representative of a lot of smaller issues that we need to acknowledge. The other thing you said that's interesting too is so many of us, whether you're work or stay at home parent, we're so multifaceted in what we're doing on a
Mm-hmm.
daily basis. So how do you help people create those boundaries or guidelines to move forward?
Yeah.
So it's so easy to derail in a
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, exactly. So boundaries can be boundaries with other people.
Okay.
I mean, we all learned in COVID. We had to learn how to work out of our little section of the house and not interrupt each other. Who's going to take care of the kids and homework and all that, right?
Yeah.
In my case, my husband, who wasn't working full time out of the house from 5 to 7 at night, he was gone all day. And now we were sharing the same space. So boundaries is sometimes I need to set boundaries with myself. Work time is work time, free time is free time. Don't let the two blend too much. Boundaries with others. I remember one particular client who developed closed door hours. Like if her office door was closed,
Okay.
please don't interrupt. It's the 1 hour of the day when I'm going to barrel through and get some things done, right?
Sure.
When I'm available to take some input, obviously if it's an emergency,
Yeah.
but she learned how to use her door to like create a physical boundary, right?
Yes.
Um,
I can think of a couple colleagues in my office that do that. So yeah, that's
yeah,
a good one.
yeah, yeah. And if they don't get the hint, then you need to speak up,
Right.
right? I think so many of us if we're people types, part of what I do as a coach is I help kind of reveal the personality style that you are. And, if you are a people pleasing avoider conflict person, then it's hard to have those conversations, but you need to develop that ability to say what's important to you. Ultimately, with my husband working from home during pandemic, I had a little whiteboard I put on the fridge, and I'm in this part of the house with a glass door. You can see through it.
Yeah.
And I had a little schedule. I still do it now. He's retired now, but I have a schedule on the whiteboard that says when I have clients, when I like really need privacy.
Oh, I
So
love that.
boundaries
And
are important.
you mentioned early on that you had to use your own coaching skills
Mm,
on yourself. Are there any
yeah.
other examples that you think are important that you've had to implement for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before I wrote the book, but I had already kind of created some of the steps that I talk about, my 8 steps. I was involved with 2 projects, and one was as a volunteer on, Coaching Federation. I was the webmaster, and I was way in over my head. And then there was another project that I was working on that was for me, and it actually ended up developing into the book. I was so overwhelmed with both of them, I wasn't doing anything. So again, coach thyself. Okay, what's going on? And I realized like I was avoiding this step over here, didn't have a clue what to do over there. And I said, all right, awareness. That's step one, is like, what's going on? So, and then the second is acceptance. I accepted that I was just going to keep floundering unless I did something. And I picked one of the 2 projects, what's one step I could do on it. And my mindset, which is step 3, is, I will get this done. It was like just a very particular transactional, got to get this one thing finished. And I did that one thing. I knew it was going to be tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. I was going to do this, make a phone call, get that thing done. So assess my options, plan, and then action. So those were steps 4, 5, and 6. And I realized the next day I woke up. Of course, I was relieved I'd done that thing, but I woke up and my brain was on fire for the other project that I was working on. And I was so excited. It was like a cork out of a
It
champagne
just
bottle.
shifted.
It completely shifted. My energy shifted, and I got out a whole bunch of index cards and I wrote notes about all of these ideas that had been stewing over the night.
Yeah,
And I,
I
and
love
I,
it.
yeah, when we're stuck on one thing, it often causes us to be stuck on many things. And then we're just, okay, I could do one of 18 things, but I'm not doing any of them.
Yeah.
So you just, pick something. And once you get moving, I think it really helps.
I was also going to mention, Monica, that you and I went through the whole process of publishing our book together.
Yeah.
Even with the books out now, you and I have been meeting on Zoom just to
Yeah.
hold ourselves accountable for, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Because there's just so much out there. I mean, once the book is published, how do you market it? How much time do you spend? How much money? And
Right.
every time I look at the calendar, I'm like, oh crap, Monica's coming up. I've got to get this stuff going. It really has put my feet to the fire a little bit. So I also think that's a great suggestion too, to make someone accountable, right?
Yes,
What you're
I was
doing.
going to say that's the power of accountability.
Yeah.
I've had many clients who, let's say on October 1st, they say they're going to do such and such. And the next time we talk is October 10th. And on the 9th, there's all of a sudden they're doing the thing that they said they were going to do because they're, oh, I'm going to see Monica tomorrow. But at some point, you want to have your own day.
Yes.
That's not a Monica, oh my gosh day,
Yeah. It's
right?
Monica oh crap day.
I have a friend who calls herself really productive day. She says, I had a Monica day.
Yeah.
Like she sees me as a very productive person.
Oh,
And she only knew that, I'm drowning in my own doubtful, the decisive shift of my own. But I know that when I plan, I do better. So if today the 1 or 2 big things that I want to get done, prepare for a podcast. And then I'm meeting with my insurance broker later today because our homeowner's insurance practically doubled.
yeah.
So I have Oh, and I got my walk in. I walked 3 miles today. So if I know the things that I absolutely have to get done, and I have it on a little piece of paper here,
Okay.
it gives my mind something to focus on and to get it done. And then if you can add that support group, that accountability or some tracking system, with me walking every day, I have a place where I track my walking and I'm walking my way across Italy virtually, 900
Right.
miles by next October.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. And what about, so when we talk about these goals,
Hmm.
um, let's maybe go back to the unstuck part and how does fear play into it? And
Mm.
how do you create these actionable steps to get past that?
Yeah. Well, fear is often, I mean, sometimes it's founded, but sometimes it's unfounded. Like we have this worst case scenario thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of letting someone down.
Yeah.
Um, and if we can look at what is really behind that. And if you need to break it down into itsy bitsy tiny steps and
Hmm.
build up the confidence. Some people I've noticed there's some clients that go this fast. Once they've started, they're just lift off. And
Right.
then there's some that just need that constant little support and encouragement and a little bit of cheerleading. And I try to coach them on how to champion themselves. Like,
Yeah.
ah, you did this. You can handle this.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you think it's because some of the fear maybe could stem from something that an experience they had maybe earlier on in life or in childhood, or
Yeah.
I don't know, like,
Broad fear.
yeah,
Um, so as a coach, I don't I don't spend too much time going back into where did that fear come from
yeah,
or try to resolve it. If someone really needs therapy, I refer them to a therapist.
yes,
Not that I haven't worked with people who also have a therapist, but what they get out of coaching is usually more of a focus on moving forward.
okay,
But to get back to where did it come from? It's funny. I've had, 60 and 70-year-old women tell me that they don't say things or they don't do things because that's what they've learned.
right,
They heard that
yeah,
message as a child. And it's not me pulling it out of them. It's them coming to that realization. And I love it when clients suddenly find their voice
yes,
and become their really authentic self. And I think of all those little limiting beliefs and those little saboteur parts of us, the perfectionist or the avoider or whatever. It's like dirt on your windshield.
yes,
And if you every once in a while you have a good day and you just clean off your windshield and you're like, oh, there I am.
yeah, yeah,
And the more you can be that, I have a great tool called At Your Finest and Best.
yeah. And I see that in finance all the time.
Yeah.
People get very emotional, they get very fearful of the markets,
Yeah.
and they're constantly doubting the decisions that they're making.
Right. Well, I think there's something the opposite of doubt. Maybe there's trust. I remember I had two kids in college at the same time that there's only a year apart in age. So for 3 years, they were in college together.
Mm.
And my part-time job was paying for one of them and our savings was paying for the other. And of course, just when the market crashed, it was around 2000.
Oh,
Um,
yep,
we were having to pull money out of our investment accounts to pay
yep,
for school. And you're like, well, it is what it is. I mean, that's the beauty of having a mindset that will lift you up as
mhm,
opposed to drag you down.
okay,
I trust my financial planner.
right,
I know that it's going to go up and down.
yeah.
And overall, eventually, you'll be at a point where you'll be able to reap the rewards of investing over
Get
time.
to your desired outcome.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well,
Yes.
I think I shared with you that, there's a lot of studies done around behavioral finance over the last 20
Mm,
years. And one of the things we've seen and we talk about a lot about is this idea of investment paralysis and just the
mm,
fear of making investment decisions. And I will say this, one of my colleagues shared with us a study by Vanguard. So Vanguard probably manages more money for investors than anyone in the world. Right?
mm-hmm.
They're known for a cheap, simple way to enter the market in their basket of investments. Anyways,
Yeah.
their study says that a third of the IRAs that they have, a third of them, 7 years later, are still in cash. Mind-boggling to me.
Oh
So
my God.
so then I went back and said, all right, well, when was this study done? Was it 2023 when cash was paying 5%, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
that's a little bit, maybe I could justify a smidge of
Right.
it. No, this study was done in 2015 when cash was basically paying zero.
Yeah.
And so that to me is that's the example of people being stuck and fearful and making terrible financial decisions about, when you
Yeah.
look at it, you're talking about IRA money. This is not short-term needs to buy a house. This is your
Right.
long-term
You're
nest egg.
long term and it's just sitting there doing nothing. Yeah. I'm sure you have to do a lot of coaching and therapy for your clients.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, and that's honestly that's why I love these podcasts because it's really just as much information and education that we can provide. That just hopes we hope that people make better investment decisions. And that inevitably helps with their personal well-being.
Right.
Eh,
I mean, there's
So
peace
the
of
other
mind knowing that we have this nest egg
yeah,
that we'll be able to live on, on a pension and social security and whatever else. We know we have that.
yes.
And, yeah,
So
it's very reassuring.
so I love that because I'm going to use that as a transition. So you're talking about a large goal of retirement,
Mm,
right? And
yeah,
you just named a couple pieces of your strategy of getting you to your retirement to your desired outcome.
right.
And in your book, you talk about SMART goals.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you explain what that is and how that fits into a bigger goal of retirement maybe?
So if my desired outcome is that I want to retire at 66 and a quarter when my social security kicked in or whatever, and I've got some sense of how much I need to have in there. So a SMART goal might be it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. That's what SMART stands for. So specific is we actually, toward the end, we added every month, we will add another $500 to a joint investment account that wasn't, 401k, whatever.
Yep.
But it was that extra money that we knew, and we had a specific reason for it.
Yes.
Because when Steve retired, we were still going to have 3 more years on our mortgage.
Okay. Yep.
So we were putting specifically $500 in every month
Yeah.
to help us build enough money so that if we wanted to, we could just pay the whole mortgage off when he retired, and then we wouldn't have to worry about it.
And can I also say you were specific about the money that you needed to add because you were specific about your retirement destination. It
Yes.
wasn't just I want to retire.
Right. Right. It was, yes.
I hear that a lot. I just want to
When I want
retire.
to, yeah, I want to retire. Yeah. When do I retire? And what do you want to, so some people with retirement, what is also specific and sometimes hard to measure is what do I want to do after I retire?
Yes.
So they keep putting off the retirement date until they have some sort of plan, but they don't spend any time
Yeah.
thinking about the plan.
Yes.
So yeah, there was a little bit of that happened. Steve had like 3 options. We kind of came up with 3 possible dates to retire. We picked the
Yeah.
middle one. And well, what will he do after retirement?
Well, I'm
So
thinking of your daughter, right, who has a separate travel budget.
yeah,
Because a
yeah,
lot of people, when they retire, they explain to us, well, we want to travel. We didn't get to
right.
travel. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so that sometimes you can spend more in retirement.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because you're home all the time. You're twiddling your thumbs. You want
Yes.
to go visit your kids or grandkids. You want to go visit friends, whatever. When it comes to retirement, there are many aspects of it. And I mentioned also the knowledge. So what will I have? What will the pension be?
Mhm.
What will my social security be at which dates? So knowing what's going to come in, and then have you ever created a budget? Like, do you have any idea how much you spend every month and on what? I'm one of these crazy people that I think since we've been married, I know I did this we got married in 1980. And I still to this day, every 2 weeks, I know what bills I'm paying. The mortgage, utilities, the phone, da 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 da. And then the credit cards end up being this little cushion.
Mhm.
When it's too big, I'm like, oh, Gotta have a
Yep.
better month next month. So I'm aware of where money is going. And if people don't have an awareness, they don't have any idea how much money they're going to need.
There's no foundation to go off of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So specific and measurable, attainable, I will log my expenses for 3 months
Yes.
and see where money's going. And then I will look at, well, what are the bills that come once a year? Like
Yeah.
my homeowner's insurance, or we had a storm and suddenly we're, trimming trees for almost $4,000,
Right.
So you got to have,
You
cushions
have
and
to have an emergency savings. You have to have a
right.
budget. I mean, all these
Yeah. Yeah.
fundamentals that,
Yeah.
your point, I think a lot of individuals, even in their adulthood,
Yeah.
don't really have. And so it's hard to build these steps. You don't have a starting point.
Right. And one other thing I want to say about SMART goals is that when a goal is coming from someone else, it doesn't really necessarily resonate with them. They feel like it's a forced goal. So
Okay.
I like people to have a concept of, well, what would that look like if you created it, you really want it, and what would be thrilling? So it kind of a different
Mm.
R and a different T. So
Do you have an example of,
attainable,
do you have an
so
example?
specific, measurable, attainable, resonant, and thrilling. I want to have 12,000 a year to spend on a really great trip every year.
Right.
And maybe one year I'll spend 20 grand and another year only 5, but I want that to be part of my overall goal,
Cool. Yep.
financially. So if I make that goal, then maybe depending on my income and everything else, maybe I need to cut back on some other things. Sometimes we spend money willy-nilly and then we don't have the money to do the thrilling stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I'm like you, I go through all of our expenses, and as much as I'm aware, it's amazing, even for someone like me that I think plans and is aware of it, you still spend money that you didn't intend to.
Yes, yes.
It's
Or
really
suddenly
it's
have
really
to.
easy to subscribe through like an Apple subscription, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. How
that's
many streaming services do I have and do I really need them all? And yeah, I actually was doing kind of that look and I realized I was spending close to $300 on my cable bill
yeah.
and almost another 300 on our mobile phone bill. And I called the internet company and I cut that down because there's channels we never watch. Like I don't need that.
And
Um,
yeah, and I'm laughing because we subscribed to we wanted to watch Yellowstone. So we subscribed to, I can't remember if it was on Paramount, HBO, whatever it was. It
yeah,
was like, let's subscribe, we'll watch it, and then we'll cancel it.
and then we'll cancel it.
Right. And then I did the exact same thing with the Olympics this summer with Peacock.
Yes.
And I looked at the bill and I'm like, yeah, I never canceled either of them. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how quickly, again, we're busy and
Yeah.
have an
Yeah.
intent and you need to have, but you and I have this step. Like for me, it's every month I go through it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important. Is there anything else that comes to mind?
Going back to my 8 steps, I think awareness is key. And that's really the first step
Yeah.
to opening up to any change is awareness. If you are not aware of where your money goes, if you're suddenly saying, how come I can't afford that thing that I thought I was going to be able to afford? Well, what have you spent this month? And not in a judgy way. It's just
Yes.
just an awareness
Absolutely.
exercise. So you can make
Budget
a
gets a
smart.
bad rap.
Yes, they do. And if you look at it from the other way, a budget gives you the freedom to do the things that you want to do. So you're spending your money on essentials and you're spending your money on things you really want, but you're not wasting money on stuff that, you know,
And Monica,
you
I
don't
think it's
need
so
to.
interesting for clients that I have that are really good at a budget and stick to a budget
Hmm.
and use that to your point in an empowering way.
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot of them were taught that at a very young age.
Mm,
That's all they've ever known.
yeah.
Whereas the ones that really struggle never were quite taught that lesson and
Yeah.
are only starting to realize what it is, if they're even doing it at all in their
Right.
life
Right.
stage. So I think I
Yeah.
find it fascinating.
And you don't want to get to a point of scarcity. You want
Yes.
to do it because it's going to help you. I have a friend who, had a job, lost it during the recession of the 2008, 9, kind of fledged along and was getting a certain amount, eventually retired, and then was getting money every month. But no one had the talk with her that like this money's going to run out really fast. So me, friend, you know, helped her say, how are you spending your money? And,
Yeah.
credit cards that aren't being paid off on time. So now you've got interest and all that stuff. And just with really honestly, a couple months of tweaking and paying more attention, she almost cut off completely what she needed to get from her financial aid. She had started a little part-time business,
Yeah.
and it would like change the whole thing. But it started with awareness and this fear of scarcity. Like, I'm going to run out. Well, do something about it. What can you do
And
about
you bring up such a great point because it really is these small, almost they feel like minutia steps
it? Mm-hmm.
that get you there.
Yeah.
It's not like one big step, easy step, and you're like, okay, I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And one other thing I want to add is that with any goal or whatever plan, if you can just ask yourself, if I want this to happen, what am I going to say yes to? And what am I going to say no to? And, in this, the people who spend money on, maybe they're helping everyone else out. They're helping their kids out. They're helping,
Oh, yeah.
whatever, but they're not saving for their own retirement. They have to say no. And even if it's cut back.
Yes.
But again, boundaries come in, expectations and being able to say no to certain things
Yeah.
so that you
I
can say
think
yes to other things. It's this polarization again.
again, it's this internal tug of war, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that because I've seen that over and over again.
You got to look at
And
what's
I think because
sustainable.
we really most of us really are generous people, and sometimes we struggle to prioritize ourselves.
Yes. I think those are the hardest goals that I have lots of very capable clients, and they thrive here and there and everywhere, but they don't take care of themselves. And then when they want anything to happen for themselves, a decade goes by and they're still not doing that thing they've been talking about.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
I know enough about you that, for example, you were talked about you got your steps in today, right? And I know
Yes,
enough that that is a primary goal for you, right?
it has
Made
become
it.
one. And what made it happen was making it fun and thrilling. I'm going to Italy next year, and I have figured out it's going to be 900 miles. How am I
Yeah.
going to do 900 miles in one year? I got to do at least 15 or 16 miles every week. And so today I was going to just walk a mile. I ended up walking 3. And it's just kind of like when you go to declutter your closet, you say, all right, I'm just going to start with a half an hour. And
Yeah.
3 hours later, you're still digging in there. You just needed something to get going.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, just one last follow up question: when is someone ready for coaching? Have you?
Ah, yeah, that's a good question. I think anyone what I see is that they have something that's important to them. They are curious and willing and open, and you have to develop a certain level of trust, and um you do need to find the right coach. And I think part of it is being able to interview each other and see. I'm sure you find that with financial planners as well.
Yes.
You kind of interview each other to find a right fit. But clients they're curious, they're open, they are ready to put in a little bit of work, because it's not like a magic, we have 1 hour, 3 or 4 times a month. And in just those 1 hours, 3 times a month, you're going to have this amazing change. It takes a little work and insight and thinking and planning in between. So the
I
clients, if you're ready for coaching, it means that you have something really important that you want to work toward, and that you're willing to roll up your sleeves a little bit.
Yeah. And I would say it's the same thing with finding a financial advisor.
Mm,
The outcome is going to be precedented on what you put into it.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Both literally, money wise, and emotionally. And
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. But it's also even just going back to, do you know how you're spending?
Yeah.
And anyways, it's the I love that because we always say here we want to work with clients that want help, need help, and are willing to delegate. And
Mm.
getting the combination of that three, it means that someone is willing to come and partner with us, and they have a desired outcome, and they're willing to take the steps necessary to get them there. Say, I think of the same way as coaching.
Yeah. The only thing that's different is they don't delegate anything to me other than the conversations we have. But I often ask them to delegate to other people. When you got 10 things on your plate, what are you going to address? What are you going to delegate? What are you going to dismiss? My little ADD acronym.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I love that
Address,
one.
delegate, or dismiss.
Uh-huh.
So, you have to be able to trust your advisor, and you can only do so much. And once you do pick someone, I'm sure you want to prove that you're doing a good job, and there's going to be highs and lows.
Exactly.
Don't don't jump ship just when everything just crashed for the whole world.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I really love to see the transformation in my clients who are really just starting to sink into who they are and who they want to be and what they want to make their life look like.
Well, Monica, congrats on not just the book, but just on your business and your
Hmm.
it's been amazing to kind of watch over the last couple of years the
Yeah,
evolution.
thanks.
Yeah.
And I love your book. My daughter has a copy. I have a copy.
Oh, love
My daughter's in her 40s and my granddaughter is 13. So there's never too early. And I think I grew up my parents were Depression era parents. So I grew up with an awareness of money. I was one of 10 kids. We didn't have money.
you
If
had
I
mentioned
wanted to
that.
go
I
to college,
forgot.
I had to
Wow.
pay for college. You know, I love helping that conversation happen at a young age so they don't suddenly turn 30 and like they have no
No.
savings and they can't afford to move out of their parents' basement and whatever.
Yeah. But I think it's one of the reasons you're so good at budgeting today and you have such an
Mm.
awareness.
Yeah, it's very possible. We
Absolutely.
had no money when we got married. Well, hey, can I buy a case of beer this week? No, maybe next week. You know?
Well, where can people find you, Monica? I know you've been working on your website.
Yes, yes. It's still a work in progress, but monicaleggett.com. So
Yep.
MonicaLeggett.
I'll put that in
Um,
the show notes.
yeah. And I do have an action blueprint. So if you go to monicaleggett.com/action, there is a new little blueprint, a little bit of what I've talked about and some of the information about the 8 steps and,
Perfect.
just kind of walking you through picking a goal. You can also, book a consultation. It's a free 30-minute joint interview to see if coaching would be helpful if you
Yeah.
want something like that.
And that's on your
Yeah.
website as well.
Yeah, that's on my homepage. Yep,
Perfect.
monicaleggett.com.
Thanks,
Great.
Monica.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was great. And I guess I'll see you next week for our check-in, and I'll try not to look at my calendar and go, oh crap, it's Monica time.
Say, oh yay.
Yes.
We get to reconnect. Yeah.
We're still working on those steps. So,
Yes. Yes.
but thank you so much for all of your insight. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.